Hi everyone, this is our last week, so I hope you've enjoyed doing the subject. I hope you've benefited a lot by looking at the new curriculum and all the extremely important topics that we've looked at as far as using digital and design technologies in early childhood education. I've tried very hard to make sure that every single topic is a very important one as far as implementing digital technologies and design technologies in early childhood education. Each week covers something that's very important in your practice. Part of the course is to look at theory. We had a look at Vygotsky's work in 1 week, and then apart from that, everything else has been a very practical and usable level. So I hope that by looking at this, it starts getting you thinking about how these different ICTs can be used in ECE settings and really get you motivated and enthusiastic about using these and making sure that when you work in settings that you're an advocate for the use of digital technologies, particularly in very sensible ways. Of course, we know that sometimes technology can be used in wasteful ways or ways that we wonder what the practical use is, or we could see different way of using other things apart from that would be better. We don't just use it for the sake of using it. So I think that's critical, that you understand how to use the technologies and that you know how to use them well so students can benefit. Now to the very important part of the exam. Previous to making this video, I posted the PowerPoint slides that talk about the exam format, the type of questions as a sample question, so that you won't have any surprises about the time and what's expected. So I'll just quickly go over some of those points that I've made in that PowerPoint. The time is 2 hours, so there's 5 questions. So if you divide that, you'll see 24 minutes per question. The word length, the answer length is around 400 words. You can do a bit more if you like. But don't go and make it too long or you won't have time for other questions. I've worked out that around 400 words is a good amount of words to be able to show that you've read the weekly papers in that area and to show your knowledge. I'm not trying to trick you by picking something that's very, very obscure, like finding one tiny little part of a paper and making that question about that. The questions are quite broad in themes that we cover during the weeks, but any topic is a possibility, so you need to go back and look this week at all the other weeks, because this week is a revision week. Nothing's off the table in terms of what we'll be covering in that exam. When you do the exam, you need to show that you've read the readings, of course, so give some evidence for that, and wherever possible, give evidence that you've engaged with other resources like links that might be given, the discussion board, what we've learnt there, and so on, the videos that I post. If you can show evidence of further reading, so that you've taken the time to go and find a different reading in that topic area outside of the required readings, that's a good thing to show that you've wanted to learn further in that topic and you can demonstrate that knowledge. When you do answer the questions, it's expected that you'll do it in an organised manner and show that you're informed, as I've previously said. It's a good idea to jot down a plan or structure for your answer, even though that takes time in an exam, it's only 2 hours. It's a good idea to jot down a little plan, because sometimes at the beginning you think, I'm going to talk about 5 major points, and then later you realise you've left out one major point altogether, because once you start writing, and it's in exam conditions, it can sort of go out of your head once you start. So I like the idea of having a little bit of a plan down there. No notes can be taken into the exam, and the other thing to do is to read the question very carefully and think about what's the most relevant things to answer and in what order. Sometimes you can highlight the important parts of that question. That helps some people. And there's other techniques that you can use as well to make sure that your questions are well written. There's quite a lot of stuff on the web about preparing for short answers, short essay answer examinations as well. So make sure that you answer all 5 questions. There's 5 questions all up, as I said previously, and there's 50 marks, so you can easily see that with your mathematical skills, that's 10 marks each. I've given a sample question about visual literacy because we did read about visual literacy and you had a chance to write about that in your assessment piece. So obviously I wouldn't answer that question, I wouldn't place that question for you to answer in the exam, but it's one of the topics that we looked at, so it gives me a good opportunity to put together a sample question to show, you know, the sort of thing. And the model that I use similar to what I've asked in other questions. Another very important thing is, because you're not bringing notes in and you need to refer to the papers, we will not expect that you'll be using strictly APA format. If you can find, like if you can remember the author's name and the year, then use it the way that you would write it with APA. Of course, we don't expect you to remember quotes and then be able to put down direct quotes, but you might be able to paraphrase what somebody has said, or point out a very important point that they made, or very important evidence that they provided in the paper for some point that you're making. But we're going to be quite lenient as far as APA referencing goes. If you can't remember the author's name and year, you might just talk about the title of the paper, or the paper from week 3 that was about something. You put the theme of what it was about. There's different ways that you can refer to the paper. We wouldn't expect that you would have references at the end in APA format, or the page number, put things in quotes. I suppose it's possible somebody could remember a very short quote, but you know, that's up to you. We're not really necessarily looking for that sort of thing. We just want to see that you've actually read the papers and understood the papers, and you can apply what's in the paper. So that's about all the tips I can give you. As I said, there's different websites that also give a lot of detailed information about exams, and I've had these type of exams before, but I thought I'd go over exactly what was there so that there weren't any surprises whatsoever, and you could spend this week going back over those readings that are critical for answering the questions on the exam. So good luck everyone with the exam. It's been a pleasure working with you this semester. I commend you for all the hard work you've done in the discussion board. We've had our work cut out for us going through all of those and answering them all. But you know, I think in an online subject, that engagement is absolutely critical. People need to think someone's looking at what they're saying. It's just not going on the web and nobody's looking at it. Your peers have been reading it, we've been reading it, and so contributions that you're making aren't just something that you put on the web in isolation as part of an online subject. It's a learning community. Aaron and I have learnt as well from your responses, and some of the links that you've put there to other sites have been very good for everybody to look at. So well done everyone, and all the best for the exam.